Positive.
It's got to be positive. It doesn't have to be a whole number, because if I square 1.892, it's not going to come out a whole number. But I know it's going to come out positive, or at the very least, 0. So what is this saying? The answer to this are all the x's that make the square of it less than 0. Is that possible?
No.
That's what it means by inspection. Did I actually do any math, algebra work? No. I just know this stupid thing's got to be positive. The inequality says, when is it negative? Well, it's never true. So what's the answer? What x's make it work?
X plus or x greater.
What x's make it work?
Greater or equal 0.
What x's make it work? None. No x's are going to make it work, of course, because we know when you square a real number, it's got to be bigger than 0, or at least 0, right? Therefore, this sucker has no solution. That's what they mean by inspection. You can just figure it out without having to do any work.
No solution, empty set, same thing.
Sure, no solution or empty set.
He give us less than or equal, so it's only 0.
If it said x squared less than or equal to 0,
Yeah. It's like
what's the only way this could work is if it equals
0.
0. What's the only way you square something that equals 0?
0.
If x is 0.
Yeah.
I love it.
We give that.
Beautiful. All right, so that's how you do
So
it.
what was the answer of the second one?
What's the only way this will work? We just figured out it can never be less than 0, so what's the only way it can equal 0?
If it's 0.
Is x equals 0. That's the only answer.
What do you do with the squared, though?
It's not, you're not doing anything to it, thankfully, because we don't even know what to do with it yet. We don't know how squares and inequalities would get together. We don't have to know. We can just figure this out. We know what it's got to be.
Is it even possible?
So,
to
I
guess?
mean, you could do that with, I mean, do I actually have to do any work there? What do you add 1 to get 7? 6.
Six, yeah.
Did you actually do algebra?
No,
Not really.
just simple addition.
So that's what we're doing with this one.
Okay.
Okay.
On that 2-4, we're gonna hit every third one. Is that what it was?
Yeah, every third one. No, I just was doing one from that section. Yeah. All right, guys. So, any other questions? All right. Okay. So don't forget, there's fractions workshops today in case you want to do that. There's a fraction workshop at 10:30 today. So if you need help with fractions at all, it's a place to go. There's a word problem workshop too. There's I think it's outside the room. There's a word problem flyer. There's word problem workshops coming up also. Right.
And the other 61, 63, all the same?
Yep. Same thing. Same idea.
So I
So I want you to try to figure it out now that you know how to approach it. You're not trying to solve it using algebra. You're just trying to think what makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. All right, guys. So now we're going to get into guys. Now we're going to get into section 2.5, and 2.5 has got a bit of weirdness. Just to kind of warn you guys, it's talking about absolute values and how they work with inequalities. And I try to give you like real life examples to make it make sense, or ways to remember it. So let's start off with a simple one. Let's do a nice one first off, and then we'll see if how they get uglier as we go along. Oh, good, perfect. So let's do this one by inspection, like the one we just did. We're not going to actually do any algebra to this. We're just going to think what makes sense. What would make this work? So really what this is asking you is, what do you take the absolute value of to get 3? Obviously 3 works. Is that the only thing that works?
No,
Negative 3, yeah.
So what could the inside be?
Good
What could I put inside here to make it work? I could put 3,
You could put negative x as
or I
well.
could put negative 3.
So there's two answers.
I really want you to get this. Now watch this. This should be really, really silly what I'm about to do. Silly. I mean, what's the answer there?
Minus
No matter what the hell I put in there, the inside's got to be 3 or negative 3. Right? Of course it does. Because really, what's that variable doing? It's very often it's called a dummy variable. It's just taking up space. It just means something else to go in there. So what could I replace that A with? 3 or negative 3? What's the absolute value of 3? 3. Absolute value of negative 3? 3. So inequalities in equations, not inequalities, absolute values in equations always have two cases. Because the absolute value is the same answer even if I have a negative or a positive input, right? It always makes it positive. So the next level then would be this. I really want to make sure you guys, that's the absolute value, right? Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Whatever's in here must be what? What could x minus 1 be?
1.
You're thinking too far ahead. What could x be? What could this thing inside be? The inside could be 3 or negative 3. The inside could be, the inside
yeah.
could be 3,
And minus 3.
or the inside could be negative 3, right? If you replace this whole stupid thing with negative 3, doesn't this work? You guys see that? That's all we're saying is if you replace this with 3 or negative 3, this works.
Yeah.
So don't try to get to the x answer immediately. You really can't. Now I can. What could x be here? 4. So if x is 4, of course I get 4 minus 1 is 3. Absolute value of 3 is 3. Or if x is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So if I make the thing in the parentheses equal to this number or the negative of that number, you get both possibilities should work, right? You get two possible answers.
You want to see both?
You got to. Remember, the answer to an equation is all the possible values that work. And so you better give me both because both of them work. Cool. All right, all right. So let me show you kind of a visual way to think about some of these. What the hell does that mean, really? What does absolute value mean? What's it based on? Why is it always
How much
positive?
you are far from 0?
Because you're not counting like, it's not a number you're looking at a distance.
Beautiful. I love it. Right? It's how far away two things are. Normally it's from 0. But really, look at this. X minus 1. So like, how far away is 1 from the number 7? How far apart are those? 6. What operation did you use? Subtraction, right? So I want to know a number who's 3 away from 1. That's another way to say it. Let me say that again. This says what number is 3 away from 1?
4.
So if I look at it, here's 1. If I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, I end up at 4. If I go down 1, 2, 3, I end up at 0, negative 1, negative 2. Aren't those the answers we just got? Let me let you think about it for a second, because absolute value is all about distance. So your answers, normally there's going to be two answers, two possibilities, because I can go up or down, right? So of course it makes sense there should be two cases, two possible answers. Okay. That visual doesn't always work nice when I get more and more complicated crap in here. It gets a lot more complicated, but for a simple one like this, that's the idea. But now, algebraically, I can handle anything they throw at me in here then. So let me throw something more at you. What about this guy? So now I want you to see, I always try to show you the full concept, but then I try to show you now when you see an absolute value, you think two cases. One case, the inside equals that. Right, so case 1. All right, Jeff, are you writing backwards? Case 1. Leave it alone. 4 minus 5x. If that thing was 12, the absolute value of 12 is 12. Of course. Or
Negative 12.
if this thing were negative 12, then the absolute value of this thing would be 12. Right? That's it. That's all there answers to these stupid things. These equations, anyway, we've got inequalities in our future, but now I just solved those two. That's 4, y by negative 5, so x could be negative 8 this, or minus 4, y by negative 5, 16 fifths. Be careful. Don't just find one answer and make the other answer the negative of that. You can tell already that doesn't happen very often at all. So don't do that. Don't think, oh, I got both cases. X is 7, the other one's got to be negative 7. No, I'm not even going to write it down. No. Bless you.
Thank you.
Normally it doesn't work like that. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys try one on your own.
You can, excuse me, in number 1 and the second example, you can put the answer for directly. You can have the answer directly without.
Oh, exactly, because the inside there is just a single letter.
So
If the inside, the more complicated the inside gets, the more work there is second.
you
Yep.
have to solve it.
Good. So what about, where am I at? 5. Got my little Roman numerals going. Alright, so solve that all the way.
Ah, did you do it?
Do it. Alright, so the first step,
6x plus 11 equal to
Or minus.
or minus